process of building software is slow and clunky, and is because of that is very expensive. Developers are expensive, scaffolding server infrastructure and layers, and ultimately building front ends and then wiring all the logic together. It's a really convoluted process. And what really excited me about the vision of what this enables is how does the potential to radically simplify that entire process and streamline the rate at which we can build solutions and adapt solutions and have software keep up with this fast changing world, not hard coded in static API connections and static structures that as soon as you deploy them are already legacy. The thing that really is amazing about what we're doing is we can radically simplify the speed and the complexity of building software. So what that will enable of just lowering the barriers for people to co-create software, of technical and non-technical people, to be able to build the things that they see instead of planning in one system and building in another system and having those two completely disparate things. Being able to seamlessly do that in a single interface and aligning software to business processes just makes a lot more sense and a lot more efficient. And what that'll enable is just speed to market and building things faster. What's been really interesting about the journey for me is understanding how complicated normal software actually is and reasoning through why that is the case and how can we make that simpler. How can we remove the scaffolding that we put around ourselves, around our code, to hold it up so that we can actually do the code that we need to do? And thinking through the process to do that more simply and more streamlined, where you don't need all that scaffolding and you can actually just do the code and the scaffolding happens in the background. Our approach is what is probably the most different. It's modeling business processes and an organizational structure and using that as the architecture of the code is what makes us fundamentally unique. There's very few other people that are leveraging. A lot of people are modeling organizations and a lot of other people are helping build software more effectively, but very few people are actually using that organizational structure of how the business needs to do things and have that become the framework in how you do those things. And it's bridging that gap that I think has never been solved before. The developer team really challenged ourselves to do the impossible and do what has been tried for 40 or 50 years with BPM, with process flows, with different modeling frameworks, is to actually leverage a modeling language and architecture to build more effective code. That is one of the it's been on since the 80s and 90s. People have been trying to solve that through visual paradigms and visual coding interfaces. And I think the challenge that's been taken on is like, how do we actually solve that in a really meaningful way? We believe that our software will fundamentally change the definition of who is a developer. That'll open it up for anybody to be able to co-create and co-develop code with technical and non-technical people. It's going to unleash the barriers of what it means to build software. In the far-flung future, what we see Trixta ultimately enabling is that there will be this complex mesh of dynamic systems that are connecting and interconnecting in how they run. And as our lives become more digitized, and as our transport and our payments and our delivery and our food and everything starts becoming more digitized, you're going to have this huge network of disparate systems and how they connect. And we believe that the promise of blockchains and cryptocurrencies is how they will transfer value, but they still need something that governs the rules of engagement. And for us, like, we see the technology that currently exists that can enable that is smart contracts. And so specifically tying smart contracts into traditional systems and allowing systems to find each other, discover each other, connect, and actually transact and transfer value across that system. That's what we see the future being. And it's not going to be static, hard-coded structures. It's not going to be walled gardens. It's not going to be these closed tiers and silos of information. It's going to be this dynamic interconnection of a range of different systems. And we need a fundamentally new paradigm on thinking about how we build those systems in order to make that possible. And that's what we're doing at Trixta.